TYT's got a new audio network, guys, and you're gonna love it. We got our existing shows, but on top of that, we've got a whole new slate of shows coming out that are in podcast form, including the Jimmy Dore Show. So now nobody does comedy like Jimmy. He is super aggressive and sometimes harsh and often irreverent, but he's gonna give it to you like he sees it. There's no question about that. So you're gonna love this podcast. He's gonna have some of the top comedians and comedy writers on there. So if you wanna check that out along with the entire audio network, go to tyt.com/audio.
This morning, Donald Trump took a brief break from tweeting about MS-13 to instead tweet an announcement of the possible next front in his international trade war he's been developing. Here's what he said. Based on the tariffs and trade barriers long placed on the US and its great companies and workers by the European Union, if these tariffs and barriers are not soon broken down and removed, we will be placing a 20% tariff on all of their cars coming into the US. Build them here. Yes, a 20% tariff is a significant extra tariff. I mean, if you've bought a car recently, imagine 20% extra. It's like going to the dealership twice. So that's pretty significant there. Now there is a disparity between the level of tariffs that the EU has and we have. You know, there's two sides to that relationship. Europe actually puts a 10% tariff on cars from the US, while the US has on average a 2.5 tariff, but a 25% tariff on light trucks. So I don't know if the 20% would be added on top of the 25%, but in either case, it would significantly blow past Europe's level of tariffs right now. And actually, coincidentally, today, Volvo is opening up a gigantic new plant because, I mean, pretty much everyone in the country other than Donald Trump knows this, but international car companies make a ton of cars in the US. And so they're gonna do that, and it's expected that at some point in the next couple of years, they're gonna be pumping out literally hundreds of thousands of additional cars from this more than $1 billion plant. And while announcing it, and they're very excited about it, they also decided to talk a bit about these tariffs.
In the 1800s, 1/4 of our population actually left for the United States and helped to build this wonderful country, and we really continue to do that. So we are actually employing directly in Swedish companies 365,000 Americans. And besides that, we are actually the 15th largest investor in the United States. I have to be frank though, we are a bit worried about the trade agenda today that we see in the United States, as we are looking to invest more in the United States, trade more with the United States. We are worried about the steel and aluminum tariffs that are put on the European Union, and of course extremely worried when it comes to possible car tariffs, which I think a plant like this does not need that, because we are all part of global value chains, and that's what creates the jobs we have today, and that's how the economy works. So those of you who have possibility to influence, I really hope you can bring this message forward, because Europe and the United States, we are the best of friends, if one can put it so simple, in the world, and we should really work together to solve the world's problems, also on trade issues. So I really hope we can continue that good collaboration and really create bonds that make us stronger and not weaker, which I'm a bit worried we are doing right now on the trade agenda.
So we'll have to see if he gets that message.
Yeah, so the whole thing about trade wars, and I just fail to understand the economic argument for them, and so therefore we go back to Trump is doing it because he wants to, he feels upset one day at some country and decides to, here, we'll slap on a steel and aluminum tariff, now we'll take it off, now you don't do what we want to do, we'll put it back on. But the reality is, and she said something really interesting in that, beyond the fact that Swedish car makers employ 365, and some numbers have it up to 386,000 US workers. That many US people have real jobs because of those companies in our country. You start slapping on extra tariffs on some of their products, those people start to maybe get 20% reduced as a workforce. So I mean, this has a lot of tail. And from his perspective, starting, going back to what she says, very interesting, weakening these relationships. When you start to have trade wars, when you start to do tit for tat, we're doing 25% here, we're doing 50 billion here, now we're doing 200 billion on China. That starts to escalate the inability of the United States or any country that's able to start that to actually negotiate better trade agreements on all products for all workers throughout all of the world. It actually reduces the very position that he says he's trying to increase by virtue of the fact that it will reduce workers, it will reduce jobs and so forth in the United States and throughout the world. It will also harm our diplomatic relationship. It already has harmed our diplomatic relationship with our neighbors, with Canada and with Mexico, with Europe, with Japan, and on and on.
Yeah, I have two thoughts on this. One, well, let's go for three. One is the funny part, which is Nikki Haley was in the audience because she's the former governor of South Carolina, where the plant is, and she's now, of course, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. So she's smiling all along, and then the ambassador gets to the part about how the tariffs are bad, and Nikki Haley's like, and apparently she left in the middle of speeches. So they're like, oh, for those of you who can do something, she hears that and she's gone. I don't know if she took off in a Volvo. Then this Volvo CEO came on and said more things that were tough against the Trump administration, but Haley had already fled from the building. So then her point about, I didn't know that a quarter of Sweden had moved to the US in the 1800s. That's amazing, that's wonderful, right? So if we're not working with our top allies in the world, and I would imagine that even the right wing would say, Sweden, Northern Europe, wonderful allies, right? And we're not working with Canada, and we're not working with Mexico, and so who are we working with? And the answer is Duterte in the Philippines, Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin. Some of it makes sense, you gotta make peace with your enemies like North Korea. But then when you look at the totality of the people that we are insulting and attacking, and the totality of the people that Donald Trump constantly sings the praises of, it is a strange collection of people. Yeah.
And it's also very uneconomic for what he says to be his mission of making America great again. He's basically decreasing our ability to sort of trade with those same partners. It's dumb.
I have a great example of how dumb it is actually, and it has to do with Trump and China. Everything that has to do with those two things is dumb, actually, his relationship with China. But I want to talk about this sort of tariff, because right now he's just saying maybe, maybe if I feel like it, I'll put a 20% tariff on all the cars coming in from the EU. And if you go to buy a car, enjoy paying thousands of dollars more for your car. But he's already done this on China. He imposed a 25% tariff on vehicles imported from China, which doesn't necessarily matter that much because we don't actually buy many vehicles from China. Right. But it is interesting that we sell 266,000 plus cars to China. And they apparently found that out because while they're in general already on the path to lower most global vehicle tariffs from 25% to 15%, they're raising tariffs on our cars to 40%. So we raised tariffs on their cars, of which we don't buy much anyway. Now they're gonna jack up the tariff so much, and that is gonna hurt BMW, it's gonna hurt Mercedes, it's gonna hurt Ford, it's gonna hurt Tesla. And Donald Trump, who apparently for some irrational reason hates Mercedes-Benz, might think, yes, screw Mercedes-Benz, a foreign company anyway. But those cars are made here. Those are US workers that produce those cars, or at least will produce 60% as many, perhaps, in the next year. And many will lose their jobs. Many of those who lose their jobs will have been Trump voters. And they might even at this point be cheering because it seems like he's standing up for the American worker. But none of this benefits the American working class. It kills your job, it makes the products that you go to buy more expensive, it hurts the economy all around. Donald Trump, of course, will be just fine economically. It's you who's gonna bear the burden of his policies.
No, I agree, and I think it's not just if he does it or not, these tariffs, it's just the conversation about it. It creates lack of confidence, and the stock market goes up and down, topsy-turvy, and it's not gonna hurt the corporate CEOs. If they have to tighten their belts, they're gonna do it to the working class, just like you said, and that's what really breaks my heart. In a district like mine where the unemployment rate is double the rest of San Diego County, people's wages haven't gone up in years. I talk to people who say, I'm literally retiring with less than $500 in my bank account. Like, soul-crushing things that are happening, and Trump has duped them into voting against their own livelihoods. People in Washington have power, and they use it to exploit the livelihoods of people and crush their dreams. These are people who paid into Social Security, paid into Medicare their whole lives, And now they're trying to gut Social Security and Medicare, and they're adding on this lack of confidence in the global market that is only going to further destabilize the livelihoods of these people. So.
And I would say, sorry, I would say just on that, for Trump voters who are going to be the recipients of lost jobs and more expensive products, CEOs themselves. Jamie Dimon runs this roundtable CEO lobby thing, and Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Chase, is one of the people I dislike most in the CEO community, next to Lloyd Blankfein, who runs Goldman Sachs. But that community got together and they were surveyed, and they specifically said that they are most concerned in the economy about trade wars, and as a result of that, they are reducing the amount of jobs that they would have opened up. So they're already preempting the escalation of trade wars by cutting jobs.
And the CEO here of Volvo said, I think the US administration needs to take a deep breath, sit down and think this through. Nice, harsh words I like. But the essence of it is exactly right. Because look, if you don't like some of the trade policies we've had in the past, I think that almost everybody on this panel would agree with you.
Right.
So it's not a matter of whether you're for trade or against trade, for free trade. The question is, what's in the agreement? What's in the policy? So it's like saying small government, big government. Well, it depends. What are we doing? Are we fighting a war? Are we making sure that the pond in your backyard is not poisoned, right? So it depends on what the task is.
Right.
So in this case, so if you say, hey, look, the TPP is rigged against us by multinational corporations who wrote it,
absolutely,
I would agree with you. That's exactly what happened. And they didn't write it with your best interest in mind. They wrote it with their best interest in mind. That's why we should write it. Our representatives should write it, and not the representatives of multinational corporations. But that doesn't mean that you have to agree with Trump on this policy, because that has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with our sovereignty. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with a particularly unintelligent way of fighting back. Because, I mean, look at what the example that John gave you. Why would we do a tariff on Chinese cars? We don't buy any Chinese cars. You're inviting them to do a tariff against us on our cars, and then you cost us a lot of money and jobs. That's not what even his voters meant when they said, hey, we don't like these trade deals. They didn't mean make them worse, right? And when you do tariffs against someone else, they will of course do tariffs back against you. That's why it's called trade wars. On the other hand, when you're negotiating trade deals, that's where we need to be tough. That's where we need to demand that they represent the interests of the American people. So that is a totally different ballgame than after the fact going, I don't know, I'll just do random tariffs against people, try to intimidate them. Oh, wow, they didn't get intimidated. They struck back with the same tariffs. I didn't see that coming. Well, you didn't see that coming because you're not that bright.
Yeah.
Well, the economy is currently doing okay, people keep saying, but I will tell you there's a lot of farmers in my district, and they see the writing on the wall. They see all this tough talk gonna hurt them. They see that we have a president and a congressman who doesn't recognize that the things that they care about the most are two things, water and workers. And we have an administration with this congressman who's gutting the EPA, and the draconian language is causing seasonal workers to not even want to come back, and it's hurting their way of life. So there are some within Trump's camp. That's why you see him trying to kiss up to them a bunch, because they already know what's gonna happen in a couple seasons to them if we keep going down this route. So our goal now is to just take these Trump supporters, to bring them in and tell them, here's what we present, not just reacting to Trump's narrative, but presenting our own views on what we should do. It's not just Trump's doing all the wrong things, but what are we gonna do to actually fix it?
Amar, there's a great irony of that, is that it's what Trump said during the campaign. He's like, their leaders are smart and our leaders are dumb, right? So China is particularly striking back against our farmers because they know that's gonna hurt, right? And so they're being smart, going, oh, you're gonna do a tariff against me? I'll do a tariff against your farmers because I know they're politically powerful and they're more likely to have voted for you. That's a smart way of doing politics. So we might not like it, but it's smart. Trump, on the other hand, doesn't bother to look to see if we have a surplus or deficit. He claimed we had a deficit with Canada, and we don't. We have a trade surplus. Oh, that's the wrong country to pick on. You couldn't pick a worse country to pick on because then we might lose our surplus with Canada. Oh, that's so dumb, right? And then to attack China and to get these tariffs in return in a hodgepodge way that you, as usual, didn't think through. Unfortunately, their leaders are smart, and our current leader is pretty dumb. Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.